program will begin with the choir singers as soon as we have silence. Thank you. Shalom. We're going to have a formal introduction after the first song.
Salmon, and this is my brother John. I'm the older brother. I'm the funnier one? No. Anyway, we're MCs tonight, and we gather for the 4th annual Egon J. Salmon and Family Commemoration of Kristallnacht and of the St. Louis. We commemorate and honor this turning point in the history of the Holocaust. 81 years ago, on November 9, 1938, the Nazis initiated a wave of anti-Semitic destruction across Germany, Austria, and part of Czechoslovakia. My father, Egon Salmon, was an eyewitness to what became known as the Night of Broken Glass, when Nazi officials and Hitler Youth shattered thousands of shop windows, burned 267 synagogues, and killed 91 Jews. That night, 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to Dachau, including my grandfather, Paul. 80 years ago, my father, Egon, then age 15, his sister Edith, and my grandmother Erna sought to flee Nazi Germany on a ship called the St. Louis. When Cuba turned them away, they became refugees. Few nations were willing to accept them. They ended up in Brussels, Belgium. And it took over 2 years before my dad arrived on Staten Island and then attended Dorp High School. 75 years ago, my father graduated Dorp, a moment we commemorated this past March when he spoke there and we first heard the Dorp Glee Club. Sadly, the atmosphere of hate and its lessons are still relevant. But thankfully, so are the interfaith efforts to never forget that are part of our Staten Island community. I want to thank my mother, Salmon, a native Staten Islander, who just celebrated her 90th birthday. Yeah, we have good genes in our family. I want to thank her for her suggestion last year to highlight the music of the Holocaust. I'd also like to thank my rabbi, Elliot Malamuth, here tonight, who spoke during the High Holidays services of the importance of and resurrection of music to Jewish life. We cannot wait to hear the voices of the next generation. We're pleased to welcome youth of all faiths and backgrounds. You inspire us. In your hands rests the hope that this next generation, your generation, learns from the mistakes of the past. The first song was sung in Yiddish by the Wagner College Chamber Singers. It was composed for one of the women's barracks in Theresienstadt, a ghetto and concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. When it speaks of fists raised without a fight, it shows that the Nazi spirit that kept hope, it shows that the anti-Nazi spirit that kept hope alive when the Jewish girls and women were alone in their barracks. The final words, "Truth will prevail," was part of their national tradition dating to 1450, and its message we still need today. I invite Dr. Joel Martin, the new president of Wagner College, to say a few words now.
Welcome, everyone. Wagner College is grateful to be able to host the 4th annual Egon J. Salmon commemoration of Kristallnacht in the St. Louis. We are proud of our partnership with diverse faith communities in New York. Our partnership with the Jewish community dates back to the 1930s. 8 days after Kristallnacht, in November of 1938, the president of Wagner College, Dr. Staten, called together the entire student body to condemn Nazi anti-Semitism, as well as racism in Germany and the United States. I'm proud to be standing in his footsteps, affirming again our commitment to human rights and empathy. My wife, Jan, wanted to be here. Is not here because we've got some ailing family members in Alabama, including my mother, who's 90 years old also. And so she was urgently needed there. But she's here with us in spirit. Wagner students every day go out into the Staten Island community to make a difference to immigrants, refugees, and many others. And we're very proud of the work that our students and faculty and staff do. We are inspired by those like Egon Salmon, who fought for this nation as a new immigrant and helped to liberate others. We are proud to partner with him, Lori, and their family, who are devoted to remembering the victims of the Holocaust and genocide. Thank you for coming tonight and being part of the effort to make our community stronger and to stand up against hate through Holocaust education. These kind of efforts are needed more than ever. I also want to thank Congregation Agudat Hakim Hasol Kezad and their board member Joel Cohen, Wagner alum for the class of 1950, who's reluctant to stand up, but we are very grateful for his generous sponsorship of the event. Thank you. And we thank Thomas Juneau for his exceptional efforts to involve our Wagner College Chamber Singers and Strings Ensemble in raising their voices to never forget. Thank you. You're wonderful. And now I'd like to call on our good friends, Dr. Victor and Kim Avis, who have shown true leadership as chairs of the High Society for over a decade, generously giving their time to benefit our students.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, and welcome to Wagner College and this wonderful event. Just some off the paper remarks is that I'm so touched here to see some of the great leaders of the Staten Island Jewish community leadership that has spanned probably 75 to 80 years in this room. And this did not always happen at Wagner College. And I thank you, Dr. Martin, in your first year here from our early meetings, just embracing the importance of this for our community, for Wagner College, and we know you're going to have a great tenure here, so thank you. And Marie and Egon, thank you for your gift to inspire all those in this room that have been coming over the years, and that it continues to grow. So it's you've touched that on in so many ways, and your legacy continues. So thank you very much. Recently, we commemorated the one-year anniversary of the deadly shooting in the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. We're living in a moment of rising anti-Semitism today, one that demands response with empathy and education. The Anti-Defamation League calculates over 1,000 incidents of harassment, including bomb threats against Jewish institutions, up 41%. Other surveys show that over half of all Americans have never been to a Holocaust museum, and almost half cannot name a single one of the concentration camps. 2/3 of millennials and Gen Z could not name a single concentration camp. This is why the High Society has helped to support the Wagner College Holocaust Center going back to 2014. The mission of the center is to empower future generations in empathy, courage, and ethical decision-making in order to combat anti-Semitism and all forms of prejudice. Since 2014, the programs of the Holocaust Center have reached over 5,000 youth, putting them in direct contact with survivors of the Holocaust and other genocides. We have created films and plays that honor local survivors, including Rise Up Young Holocaust Heroes, which will be at the St. George Theater every April. This past year brought an exceptional collaboration with the Staten Island Advance, Brian Mullane as editor, and Shira Stahl, who's here tonight somewhere. And Shira won an New York Emmy Award for 15 films about local Staten Island survivors. One of our most recent projects is to work with the New York City Department of Education and the Staten Island Advance to organize a coalition of Staten Island Holocaust educators. Furthermore, the High Society and Wagner support the on-campus Hillel, which is more dynamic than ever. You'll hear from our president soon, and includes new students from Vermont to Hawaii who proudly share their culture with their friends of other faiths on campus. We urge you to support the High Society so that we can continue these programs, not only on Wagner College, but throughout the community. And finally, I want to thank the co-chairs for tonight, Linda Greenberg, Ruth Ann Gutman, Frank Weil, and acknowledge the assistance of Manny Sachs and Jennifer Weil in their outreach to our elected officials. Thank you very much. I just want to thank the honorary committee for their help, and it's now my privilege to call upon Ruth Kupferberg, president of the Wagner College Hillel, and a recent High Society honoree, and other students to lead the candlelighting ceremony.
To honor the memory of the 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, we will light 6 candles. Our Wagner Holocaust Center student interns, Rebecca Zoikis and Miles Wilkie, will assist. May I ask the following to stand, come forward, and light a candle. First, Egon, Salmon, and family.
Can we just take a picture with the Salmon family before they sit down?
You think you can stand up again?
You want to get in there and I'll take it?
One, two, three. All right, next, will our Holocaust survivors in attendance with us tonight please come forward? Rabbi Rami Cohn, Brenda Perlman, Arthur Spielman, Shirley Gotzman, and Stephanie Hecht. And anyone else not mentioned may come up. Arthur Spielman was born in Krakow, Poland, the ghetto featured in the film Schindler's List, the heart of Nazi Poland, and endured life in the Krakow ghetto. Brenda Perlman survived in hiding but tragically lost her baby brother. And Rabbi Rami Cohen, who received an honorary doctorate from Wagner College in 2015, fought against the Nazis in the partisan unit in Slovakia. He also saved 57 families by helping them in hiding. Additionally, Stephanie Hecht of Hungary was taken to Auschwitz with her 2 brothers and 2 sisters. She was the only survivor. Shirley Gotzman is also a survivor of Auschwitz. Now I'd like to invite up our second generation Linda Greenberg, Ruth Ann Gutman, Frank Vile, Manny Sachs, Rachel Borenstein, Frank Vile. And if there are any others, please do come up now. We now have the third generation survivors come up. Any third or fourth generation. Jennifer Vile, David Gutman, and this candle is a special reminder of the 1.5 million children murdered. Also Dan Glassman. Now I'd like to invite up Staten Island advanced videographer Shira Stoll for her invaluable films about our Staten Island Holocaust survivors, and Reverend Terry Troya for her generosity with all those in need on Staten Island, and in honor of her family who perished in Auschwitz. I'd like to invite up the High Society board members, Kim Avis with Marcia Klein and Lane Bloomfield. This candle is a special reminder of resistance and the rest of the board. And this candle is a special reminder of the resistance and rescue efforts by those of all faiths, those including Muslims, Christians, Buddhists. Thank you so much. And lastly, may I invite up students from New Dorp High School, Isabel and Tracy, and Wagner College student E.Q. Vincent. This candle is a special reminder that 5 million non-Jewish victims, as well as those who suffered later in ongoing genocide, such as the Rohingya minority in Myanmar. All right. Once again, this candle is a special reminder of the 5 million non-Jewish victims, as well as those who suffered later in ongoing genocides, such as the Rohingya minority in Myanmar.
I'm from Romania, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Wagnerian, a student newspaper, and I'm an intern with the Holocaust Center. I will share some reflections the students from New Dorp Glee Club wrote. These songs mean standing up for what's right. It is important that the youth of the world today acknowledge and remember the events that led us here. We want to make sure that an event like this never happens again. They will begin with the song Never Again. In this song, there are 3 Hebrew words, Yom HaShoah Tikatevu, which we interpret as to inscribe the memory of the Holocaust forever in our hearts and minds. The second song, This Is Me, shows how you should accept yourself because you are who you are. We need to show more empathy and understanding and not judge others based on our differences. I invite New Dorp Glee Club to sing for us.
Yom HaShoah On this day, hear us pray 6 million prayers for you. Biom HaShoah Yikatevu. On this day, hear us pray 6 million prayers for you. Biom HaShoah Yikatevu. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. For we are glorious. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out when the dark is crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, marching on to when you're riding on the ground. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no cause to reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. Oh, you will be found. Oh, you will be found. Oh, this is me.
For those of you who didn't think I would speak tonight, you were mistaken. Thank you, New Dorp High School Glee Club, for your efforts to pay close attention to history and to building bridges across differences to stand up to hate and tolerance. It's now my honor to introduce several representatives from Staten Island. Hopefully, I need to get this, I was given an order and I'm going to try to stick to it. Mike Riley, Assemblyman.
Wow, tough to follow the Glee Club. New Dorp, you guys did an outrageous job. Give yourselves a round of applause again, please. Please. Tremendous job. Tremendous job. Just being in this room, I feel the passion, and we will never forget, and that's what it's about. So I'm just glad to be here among all of you. Remember, because that's how we won't repeat, because we'll remember. And I just want to present this citation. I'm not going to bore you with reading the whole thing, because I know you're going to hear a little bit more from some other representatives. from Staten Island, but there is this one part at the end that I think symbolizes exactly why we're here. So be it resolved that throughout the 62nd Assembly District and the great state of New York, we recognize Egon J. Salmon and the SS St. Louis. That's what we're here for. That's what this is about. And all I could say is thank you for letting me be a part of this, and God bless you.
I'd now like to call up Bill Matarazzo, representing State Senator Andrew Lanza.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be with you. I see so many familiar faces, and it's truly inspiring to be with the family, to share the story. You know, each of us is touched in a different way. It's through storytelling and sharing these important anecdotes about our own personal lives, and I thank you for sharing your story with us and your lives with us, because we learn so much. I was explaining to my 13-year-old daughter today what we were doing tonight, and unfortunately, because of a dancing school thing, I couldn't bring her here personally, but she was touched, and she said, I want to learn more and I want to know more. And that's what it's about. That's how we don't forget. It's the young people. It's the youth that's in the room. And it's truly inspiring to know your story, sir. And I have the pleasure of working for and under Senator Lanza, and he wanted to send a New York State Senate proclamation to honor you and your great sacrifice and courage. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
I don't have a name, but I know we representative from Nicole Maliotakis office.
Hi, obviously I am not Nicole Maliotakis. My name is Matt. I'm representing the Assemblywoman tonight. She just wants to send her regards. She thinks events like these are so important because not only do we remember the victims of such horrific crimes, but we make sure that it never, ever happens again. So thank you so much for having me tonight. The Assemblywoman believes that Mr. Salmon's service in the face of such horror personifies the American dream. His resilience personifies the American dream, and she just wants to thank you all for inviting us tonight.
Last, I'd like to bring up an old family friend, Manny Sachs, Vietnam veteran, High Board member, to present a congressional proclamation from Max Rose, and I think he's got something else special to present also.
Indeed an honor to be here this evening, not only as a Vietnam veteran who served, who didn't have to serve. My family came to this country, and I'm proud to have paid a debt of gratitude to that. And I'm equally inspired by Egon Salmon. So on behalf of Congressman Max Rose and a grateful nation, I'm privileged to present the flag that has been flown over the United States Capitol. The American flag is presented to you in honor of your service to your country, to this country. May I quote General Douglas MacArthur, duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate that you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. Egon Salmon, your life has personified these qualities. Chazak ve'amatz, v'koach l'koach, u'mechayel l'chayel, v'admeya v'esrim shana. Continue to be strong and resolute. May you continue until 120.
I didn't know General MacArthur spoke Hebrew. Now for a few words on the meaning of this evening before we return to the Wagner Chamber Singers, I call upon Ethan Meyer to share his reflections on genocide and human rights.
Good evening, everyone. As we remember Kristallnacht and the greater tragedy of the Holocaust, it is important to measure the cost of a society void of human rights. The cost for me is the people that I love most in this world, my family. As a man whose father has Jewish roots and a little brother who has Down syndrome, the protection of human rights is not just an important issue for me, it is one that is absolutely paramount. It is for this reason that I have chosen to dedicate my senior thesis to focus on this very issue and examine how the United Nations has failed in its duty to protect human rights. The preamble of the UN Charter professes its duty in saying, to succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of a human person. Despite this assertion, since the end of the Second World War, there have been 5 more genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and 2 ongoing in Sudan and Myanmar. As a consequence, the horrors of genocide have been allowed to continue to plague the peoples of our world today. So I ask you, what is the cost of a society void of human rights to you? Is it worth less than the aspirations of the wealthy and powerful? I think not. I believe humanity has a mantle of responsibility to assert the enthronement of human rights and to protect our species from our own flaws and failures. If not, all those that we have already lost will have died for nothing. Thank you.
Hello. I'd like you to imagine deportation from Warsaw, Poland, in a cattle car, and suddenly a Hasid, a righteous Jew, begins to sing about faith in a beautiful voice. 100 souls are silent, and then join in. How will this melody be saved from the gas chamber of Treblinka, where they're headed? One youth, who was a courageous soul, jumps from the car and brings the words to Israel and the United States. This song from the heart you will hear today is from a setting by Philadelphia composer John Conant. It begins with a text set as a prayerful shout. Soprano and alto soloists intone above the choir in dramatic fashion. The music grows to an intense declaration of prayer, eventually receding back into the mind. This song, Ani Mami, a song of Treblinka, to the chamber choir symphony.
Jewish children died in the Holocaust. With this song, Wagner College students of all faith restore the legacy of one, young Abraham. Abramek Koplovich was 9 years old when the Nazis invaded Poland. In 1943, at the age of 13, trapped in the Lodz ghetto, Abramek began to write poems and create sketches of everyday life in the Lodz ghetto, hunger, fear. The text for this work is taken from his Polish poem, Marzenia, The Dream. The Nazis deported Abramek at age 14 to the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp, where he was killed in the gas chamber, as was his mother, Joche. Abramek's father, Mendel, survived and recorded Abramek's poetry and artwork. Only after Mendel's death did Abramek's school notebook get published, full of poems that are bright and hopeful. This song, Dream, contains 4 parts. I'll fly, the peaks of Tibet, I will flutter, and fly, cruise, soar. The Nazis who succeeded in extinguishing Abramek Koplovich's life, but they did not crush his spirit, nor did they erase his legacy. His notebook now resides at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, Israel.
Ooh.
That was absolutely beautiful. Now the next two songs are drawn from an anonymous poem found in the Cologne concentration camp. The first, I Believe, is embedded in a haunting setting created by Drew University composer Mark Miller. The poem, with simple prose, expresses hope. While Miller's setting is simply haunting, a second version offers a very dramatic take on the poetry. Even When He Is Silent, composed by Kim Andre Arneson, offers stunning harmonies, which creates a shimmering effect reminiscent of sunlight. The work ends with a gentle, reoccurring musical figure, pondering the difficult concept, he is silent.
I believe in the
two songs from the Chamber Singers look further back in history. Oh, I can't read it. La Pensiero, also known as the Chorus of Hebrew Slaves, is from Giuseppe Verdi's opera Nabucco, 1842. The chorus recalls the period of Babylonian captivity after the loss of the first temple in Jerusalem in 586 BCE. It was inspired by Psalm 137. The libretto was written by Temistocles Soler. The chorus's theme of exiles singing about their homeland resonated immensely with the Italians of the period, as Italy was under foreign control. This chorus has become an anthem for many who have felt lost and suffering. After the September 11, 2001 attack, the Metropolitan Opera Chorus repeated this chorus in their production of Nabucco as a show of solidarity for those lost in the attack. As the final line says, "Let the Lord inspire you, a harmony of voices which may instill virtue for suffering." Deep River, an African-American spiritual, illustrates the unimaginable struggle of the Africans in servitude. Spirituals utilize imagery from the Bible. Often slaves were forbidden to practice their own religion and were forced into Christianity. Despite their oppression and violence, Africans found strength in each other and in their spirituality. Deep River is a song of longing for one's homeland and an escape to a place where there is no fear or pain.
Greetings. My name is Lori Weintrob. As many of you know, Director of the Holocaust Center at Wagner College, and I have the honor to introduce the final song of our program, an incredibly special song. But before I do so, I just want to thank everybody, especially the young people involved tonight. When we read in the media about anti-Semitism and hate, intolerance of all kinds, prejudices, genocide, the plight of refugee and immigrant children, we wonder, what can we do? What must we do? I think what we're doing tonight is what we must do. We must honor the eyewitnesses, like Egon Salmon, who bear witness to the worst of human nature. And we must also honor the young voices who are reminding us of the future and the direction that we need to go in. I want to thank Thomas Juneau for preparing this program that placed us in Treblinka, in the cattle car on the way to Treblinka, that placed us in the Lodz ghetto, that placed us in Auschwitz, and to these young voices that brought back from among the 1.5 million children, the 6 million killed, brought these voices back to life and into our consciousness. Everyone in the Glee Club, all the teachers of the Glee Club, should I get everyone's names correct? Mark Nagito, Catherine Newman, Stephanie Palumbo, our pianist James Fabrano, and of course Thomas Juneau. We're just so touched by everything you've brought out tonight. And I just want to indulge and mention that in my Holocaust class this semester, 4 of the students in the choir, Aubrey, Devin, Robin, and Shannon, who are learning deeply about the Holocaust, are also lending their voices tonight for all of us to hear. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to the committee, all the different committees, the Holocaust Advisory Committee, the Chai Committee, the chairs, the co-chairs of tonight, who I don't think stood before, Frank and Linda and Ruth. You want to stand for a second and just be acknowledged for all of your hard work. And especially, I just want to thank again Joel Cohn. The opportunity to bring an alum, a Jewish alum from 1950, back to the college and have you so involved in supporting, how many years ago was that? 69 years ago, I think it was, right? Something like that. It's just a really great honor. And Congregation Agudat Achim Anshe Chesed, if any of you got the yarmulkes, I hope you noticed that inside is imprinted their name. We're just so honored to be part of, it was the first Orthodox congregation on Staten Island, I believe. Second Orthodox congregation. And although they are not here, they're supporting programs for the Orthodox. We work with the Jewish Foundation School, for the students at Wagner, and far beyond for the community, and we're just so grateful for them. And next Friday, we're going to be doing a mini version of this for the entire middle school of the Jewish Foundation School, where we show how students of all faiths and backgrounds, we show the young Jewish children in the yeshiva who might not be aware that, in fact, young people of all faiths care deeply about the Holocaust, particularly at Wagner College. So of course, if you think that this vision is a good way to go for our country and for our community, this is the 80th anniversary of the voyage of the St. Louis, the 80th anniversary of wearing the armband. Please help us by giving a donation, whatever you can, small, large, or very large, so that we can continue these kind of programs. Shira and I last spring, we went around to schools all across Staten Island, and I think we figured out that in 1 week alone, we reached 1,200 students. And in April 22nd, 2020, 1,600 students, we hope, will be watching the stories of Staten Island survivors at the St. George Theater. So if you know schools or teachers, make sure they know about the St. George Theater production. And we're looking for sponsors for that event as well as an organizing committee. So please get involved. 80 years ago, the voyage of the St. Louis, U.S. and Cuba, all the countries of the Western Hemisphere turned their backs on refugee children like Egon Salmon. Other children, like Arthur Spielman, saw the horrors of the ghetto of Krakow, Poland, then went into hiding. Arthur has said, quote, "The worst aspect of Nazi persecution was the fear. We pray for a world where children don't know these fears, for an end to war and gun violence and genocide and anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, and all the forms of intolerance and hate." And so in that spirit, we end our event with the partisan hymn. And I call upon Holocaust survivor Arthur Spielman, as well as Ruth Kupperberg and Miles Wilkie, to sing for us in Yiddish the song written in 1943, inspired by what else but the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. We are reminded that and Bethany Friedman. Yeah, okay, so we have 3 students and a survivor. We are reminded that over 30,000...
No, we don't. We're live.
Okay. We are reminded that over 30,000 Jews, including 3,000 Jewish women, and I'll just mention one, Zivia Lubetkin of Warsaw, the highest-ranking woman in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, fought in the forests, the ghettos, and the death camps against the Nazis in armed resistance. We also have in our midst an actual member of the Jewish partisans, the Slovakian partisans, Rabbi Rami Cohen, who was honored as an honorary doctorate, Dr. Rabbi Rami Cohen, in 2015, soon after we had established the Holocaust Center. So we're very honored that you are joining us tonight. And if you want to know more about what happened when he fought 2 Nazis with a knife in his hand, get his book, The Youngest Partisan. And his most recent book is called The Ribnitzer Rebbe, another fascinating Holocaust survival story, very inspiring. Jewish resistance and rescue often relied on neighbors of other faiths for assistance, those who refused to be bystanders. These are our role models, those who refuse to be bystanders. Thank you for coming.
Es Wetter point und unser Schlott mit seinem Dorf. Warum wird noch unser ausgewählte Schau? Es Wetter point und unser Schlott mit seinem Dorf. Von grünen Palmenland bis manchen weißen Schnee. Wir kommen mit unserer Feinde unser Weg. Und wo gefallen dieser Spritz von unserem Blut? Sprossen wird dort unser Ruhe, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen dieser Spritz von unserem Blut? Sprossen wird dort unser Ruhe, unser Mut. The song was written with our blood and not with lead. It's not a little tune that birds sing overhead. The song of people sang amid collapsing walls. With pistols in their hand they heeded to the call. The song of people sang amid collapsing walls. With pistols in their hand they heeded to the call.
Jennifer? Can you raise your hand a second? Jennifer's going to be holding a basket. Inside the programs are envelopes. We really want to be able to thank anybody who donates, whether it's $10, $18, $80 for the 80th anniversary of the St. Louis, or keep multiplying with zeros. But put your name on the envelope, and Jennifer Wiley, who her father and I went to Auschwitz a few years ago, part of a class trip, is going to have a white basket to collect the envelopes. Please give generously. It's very complicated and hard to create a Holocaust Center. We need your help. So large or small donations, put your name on the envelope. We can thank you. And I'm going to let John and Henry. Oh, it's a small interruption. Next row. Audrey, did you want to come up? Yeah, this is it. Yes, she has a note she wrote today.
which is the LC, the learning community that we have here at Wagner called the Holocaust. So it's the assignment that Professor Weintrob gave us was to write a letter to a congressman supporting the Never Again legislation act, which is basically passing that Holocaust education should be mandatory in public schools. Thank you. So I'm just going to read an excerpt, the ending part of the letter that I wrote with a few of my peers. Hello. So, here we go. Everyone has been affected by or seen anti-Semitism around the country, but do these offenders know the true meaning behind their actions? To prevent anti-Semitism, one must understand what it actually is. Anti-Semitism is any derogatory action or prejudice against Jews. This means any little act that in some way implies or states directly that Jews are inferior because of their faith is anti-Semitism. This upcoming generation of middle schoolers and high schoolers are growing up in a country divided, a country in a tumultuous time, a country where hate is growing, not only against Jews, but against African Americans, the LGBTQ+ community, and many other minorities. To fight against this growing hatred, we must teach this next generation the consequences of extreme hatred. We must teach them how it can slowly escalate. Holocaust education is extremely important to bring awareness to this imminent danger. Sadly, the generation of Holocaust survivors are dying out, and soon they will no longer be here to warn us of the mistakes of the past. This makes requiring Holocaust education even more important. No longer will we have eyewitness accounts. No longer will we hear the horrors of the Holocaust from survivors. With them no longer fighting to tell their stories, we must make Holocaust education mandatory and continue to bring dignity to those lost in the Holocaust and honor those to those who survived. The issue that we are facing today and trying to fix is a humanitarian crisis. If we continue to traverse upon this path of hatred, we could come very close to a completely divided country, with different groups pitted against each other. We have the chance now to teach children the great danger of letting this happen. Students in the end of middle school and the beginning of high school are malleable. In other words, they will listen and understand what they are taught and hopefully be able to form their own opinions and go out into the world and affect change. If we don't teach them to be empathetic towards persecuted minorities, we'll be raising a generation of sympathizers and bystanders. Empathy is quite different than sympathy. The upcoming generation should not just hear about the long-ago Holocaust and feel pity for those that suffered. Instead, they should be taught about it and warned of the consequences that come out of hatred. If they are passionately taught about the Holocaust, hopefully, instead of feeling pity for those long gone, they will try to understand how something so despicable occurred. Hopefully they feel angered and empowered to go about their lives making sure that nothing even remotely similar to the Holocaust ever happens again. In simple words, they will be taught empathy rather than sympathy, and this is crucial. Making Holocaust education mandatory will teach the next generation the power of love and the danger of hatred, empowering students to go about and affect change in their daily lives so as to ensure a country of unity rather than division. Thank you.
What a tough act to follow. Don't you run against me for office, all right? I'm serious. To Wagner College and the Holocaust Center, thank you so much for hosting this. And of course to the Salmon family. thank you for your extraordinary leadership. And to Egon, wow. This is unbelievable. It's a tough situation for an elected official to be at a loss of words, but I also stand before you as a Jew. And when you think of the Holocaust and Kristallnacht, you can't put it into words. We all too often forget how few Jews there are in this world right now. I remember when I enlisted in the military, I was often the first Jew that someone had met. And it's for that reason as well that Holocaust education is so important. It's that reason as well that we have to make it mandatory in every classroom in America. But it's not just because of the education. It's not just so that people will know that anti-Semitism is wrong. It's not just so people will know that anti-Semitism is not just about words, not just about hate, but about something far deeper in society that rears its roaring head whenever people find trials and tribulations. But it's also because we can be able to fight the fights of the 21st century. See them before there's a Kristallnacht. Today, we have an emerging neo-Nazi movement that is global in nature, that is arising right before our very eyes. It has a communication apparatus. It attracts foreign fighters. It inspires killings like we saw in Christchurch in New Zealand, and then Poway, and the Pittsburgh shooting, the Tree of Life shooting, El Paso. The leading cause of the deaths of Jews throughout this country and throughout the world is this rising movement. It's for that reason it was my honor and privilege to lead the effort in Congress, 40 members of Congress calling on the Secretary of State to finally label these neo-Nazi organizations as the foreign terrorist organizations that they actually are. This is not just, when we talk about education, we're not just learning about something in the past, we're learning about the fight of the present. And we have got to, thank you. There's always one. And we have also we have to build a world where no longer do social media companies allow for neo-Nazi material to stay on their platforms. Unfortunately, far too many people are being radicalized in the comfort of their own living room or mama's basement or wherever else. We cannot sit on the sidelines while this is happening. And so I'll leave here today, I promise you, ever more inspired to make sure in the 21st century there's not another thing like Kristallnacht. That we will always stay proactive, and that we will always, always remember, never again. Thank you all so much.
As we said last year, much like the annual telling of the Passover story, we feel it essential to remember what happened on Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, so many years ago. We want to extend particular thanks to Dr. Martin, president of Wagner College, as well as his entire staff. Special thanks go to Lori Weintrob, who has been relentless in making sure this annual event is the best it can possibly be. And finally, in the spirit of making sure this important commemoration continues, Lori, I hope you don't mind, Henry and I and our wives, Linda and Merrill, are proud to announce that we'll be making a $10,000 donation to Wagner College towards this endowment our parents set up several years ago. We ask all of you to consider joining us by making a generous donation. And finally, on behalf of both of us, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my family thanks you for coming. See you all next year.